Hi, my name is Jasmine Singh, and those of you who know me on an intimate level know I love people. I love traveling, I love communities, I love immersing myself in different cultures. Things I love about people are learning different cultural heritage, different backgrounds, different beliefs, the quirks of individuals, and most importantly, what people are passionate about. I love the process of expanding my mind by exploring the way somebody else's works. That's why I decided to tackle a societal issue I have noticed is increasing at an alarming rate. Every environmental issue is a population issue. We live in a finite world with a finite amount of resources. If everyone lived the way Americans do, we would need 4 times our Earth's natural depletable resources in order to sustain the population. Sadly, I, as a designer, have no control over this. I do, on the other hand, have the power to change aspects of the built environment in efforts to better humanity. Alongside the rise in population, there is also a rise in depression and anxiety. People feeling isolated, like they don't belong, like there's no place for them in the world. I understand this comes with the constant surge of information linked to technological advancements and social media. This causes people to feel like they're inadequate. It forces them to compare their lives to a filtered version of someone else's. As history has repeatedly proved, with these advancements comes a surge of people moving towards cities in search of jobs, in search of being immersed in the fast-paced life, and things of that nature. So I came up with the perfect solution to these issues. That solution is to build with intentionality, providing the tenants of an urban apartment complex with the opportunity to live intentionally, to address head-on the social, cultural, economic, and ecological concerns we as a society have been ignoring. I modeled my apartment complex on the beliefs found in urban eco-villages and intentional communities. These values provided the conceptual foundation to create a facility that is socially satisfying, financially feasible, and most importantly, ecologically sustainable. So during the design phase, I had to figure out a clever way to redefine what it is we think community is. My main concern, above all else, was to prioritize human connection. I had to figure out how to create a collective identity based on shared values of the people who would soon call this apartment home. I had to design a facility that would age well with time, while also feel comfortable and welcoming to people coming from various walks of life. There was one aspect I was absolutely positive about that everyone had in common. San Francisco was their home. With the knowledge of that, I created a complex that evokes spirit of place. Spirit of place is a connection to self, land, and its people. This apartment is architecturally inspired by place. It is inspired by the values that the residents of San Francisco hold. They are a diverse population. They are accepting. They are progressive. For those reasons, I made a point to design with a topophilia approach. This approach strengthens the bond between people and place. I wish the whole world was as open and loving as the Bay Area, and I want the tenants of my apartment complex to be proud of where they're from. The apartment complex is going to be a new construction. It is on 3rd Street in San Francisco. It's near a lot of biking routes, public transportations. It's easy to, anywhere in San Francisco, it's very easy to get around. So as I'll show you later on in the presentation, I created a space that I've created this mud room and bike storage place that will evoke people to do a little bit more public transportation and riding their bikes and that stuff. The revision of what apartments can be is inspired by Indigenous practices and beliefs. My apartment complex is named Sahale. Sahale means heaven on earth in the northern Pima tribe's Otoham language. I truly am so fascinated with Native American traditional ecological knowledge, also known as TEK, T-E-K, TEK, traditional ecological knowledge. It has this way of looking deeper into life. It finds values off of things our society honestly takes for granted. One of the ways I implemented this fascination into my design was by repetitively using circles. I took a non-traditional approach to space planning. Circles symbolically create this easy flow, this easy transition between different spaces in my complex. I was inspired by Native Americans' medicine wheels. These were gathering places for astronomical studies, rituals, healing ceremonies, and teaching purposes. These circles also can represent the sun, the moon, seasonal changes, and the cycle between life and death. They symbolize harmony, balance, and peaceful interactions amongst all living beings. I thought that lined up perfectly with what I was trying to create. These two photos are of the first two rooms the tenants will enter into the facility. The mudroom, like I mentioned earlier, is the very first photo on the top. And where it seems shiny, that is an acoustical panel wall, and inside of that room is where the bike storage is. And as you can see, I tried to use raw, recycled materials and illuminate it with whimsical light fixtures. These circles are used to evoke this sense of childlike wonder within people that make them want to explore these different spaces. These next two spaces are areas in the Common House. Common House is a term keyed from intentional communities. They are multifunctional spaces that can be used to host various forms of gathering. The top photo is the dining area. The stairs went up to 5 of the 8 apartments in the facility. There's 3 more apartments down below, and actually behind this dining space is the entrance to those 3 apartments, so that it is a bit more confined, and it's not like there's going to be a lot of people walking in and out around that area. It still is separate and exclusive. So as it winds down, it enters the laundry, kitchenette, and theater. The second photo is of the upstairs lounge. Again, I use these circles to create this kind of playful space that makes people want to interact with one another or just sit and appreciate the view. The prospect and refuge theory was used as a guideline in creating a comforting atmosphere for both introverts and extroverts. As you can see in my floor plan layouts, that's level 1 and level 2, I put the apartments, as I just mentioned, more on the outside and a bit away from everything else, and I chose to put the communal spaces out and centered. It's about half of the space is used for private apartments and half is used for communal engagement. This perception of safety shows that prospect or open spaces symbolize freedom and adventure, while more enclosed spaces, also known as refuge, represent security and privacy. Knowing that this space is going to encompass a variety of people, I had to consider what would make each individual person feel at ease. Therefore, like I said, I clustered the private spaces on the outskirts of the communal spaces. I chose to centralize the communal spaces and decentralize areas that will allow introverts to feel relaxed. On the bottom left of the floor plan, I included an indoor permaculture garden that is fed by gray water. Concrete flooring was placed here in order to store heat from the facility, and the pond in the garden cools the air that comes from the rest of the facility. This creates a natural ventilation by following passive cooling techniques. The reason I found it so important to add the permaculture garden is, one, it allows the tenants to create their own produce. It evokes this sense of knowledge and acceptance of how hard it is to grow your own vegetation, and it also brings people back to the land. Sahale is using less resources, but more honest materials. I selected a variety of natural, untreated materials that will age and change with the passage of time. I work solely with franchises that encompass the same values as Sahale. A few of these companies included Fire Clay Tiles, who primarily use bio-based recycled clay tiles, Shaw Flooring, which is PVC and has acoustical properties, and great for heavy traffic areas, as well as Steelcase Fabrics, whose main goal is to minimize impacts on the environment. Alongside having this large of a multifunctional facility, the acoustic properties of each room was of a huge concern. I used acoustical ceiling treatments and wall coverings through this company called Bow. They use recycled, natural materials that are functional, moisture-resistant, sound-absorbing, and fireproof. The acoustical panels I used were made with 3 simple ingredients: wood, water, and cement. This complex undertakes the challenge of reconfiguring an apartment into a constructive ecosystem through the enhancement of biodiversity, creating a symbiosis between the natural and built environments, responding to climate change, cycling materials, and providing the residents a space to source their own produce. This structure exemplifies living simply, sustainably, and symbolically with the environment through an apartment that was built to be engaging, regenerative, and timelessly constructed. Sahale celebrates community by allowing its residents to get to know their neighbors in an intimate setting. In the face of climate change, the interior design graduating class of 2020 can no longer afford to ignore the role we play in this industry. Thank you all for taking the time to listen, and during this quarantine, I hope you consider reflecting on some of the things that are valuable to you and how we, as creatives, can improve upon the various flaws found within our society. We have never been more connected than we are now. The citizens of the world, for the first time, are all going through something collectively together. This pandemic is addressing the human dynamic, and having a solid community is creating a societal solution to isolation. Sahale is designed in a way that will directly enhance its tenants' overall quality of life and make challenging times a bit more fun.